All right, guys. So it's Friday. I'm out here. I got my. This is my jig. I made it out of an old control arm. It's got 2 bolts through it. It's not exactly centered in the hole, but it is flat, and that's what's crucial. These are flat on these bushings, which are square, and they can be off a little bit because ultimately, what matters is the center to center. And on these, center to center is 22. All right, so I pre-drilled these 2. I had to go out and get more material because I screwed up on my measurements. So that DOM I got from my buddy didn't quite work out as well as I thought it was going to. So I ended up ordering 2-inch 120 wall DOM tubing. And I drilled, these are 2 feet long, which gives me about an inch in. Center to center is 22. And another reason why I say it's going to be forgiving is I'm going to be using a hole saw to drill these out, and it's slightly bigger than our outer diameter of our bushing sleeve. So if you guys can imagine this is going to go through here. We're going to drill our holes. We're going to put it down, and we're going to find out our height, which right now 2 of these washers are going to be what we're going to be using, dropping it down. And these washers are going to also be used to not collapse the ears. So by that I mean this outer diameter is slightly bigger than the bolt diameter of what was there because it was a bigger bolt, and you got 1/2-inch bolts on this heavier duty stuff. So I have to make a way to positively stop the ears or the diameter to go through because it's only slightly, it's like I think it's like 1/8 of an inch. So if you split it, it's a 1/16 on each end. So we're going to be using these. And I'm making these bushings from 3/4 OD, 1/2-inch ID, which you do have to chase with a drill bit because it's not exactly 1/2 inch. The burrs also will stop you. This one came out real nice. So I'm going to go ahead, get one set up just before welding, and I'll show you guys what we got going on. And then if my wife feels like putting on her welding mask, we'll do a little bit of welding while we film. And I'll show you guys one completed, at least for tonight. Hopefully I can get both of these done by the end of the night, but if not, I at least aim for one. So on that note, I'm going to sign off, and we'll check back up on you and show you guys once we got everything ready. All right, guys, quick tip. So you might be wondering why, maybe in the other video, I don't know if I mentioned or not, how it's not crucial to get these perfectly. You can see this one's off. Right, it's in a little bit of an angle. Well, I gave myself like 1/10, so 100 thou of difference, so I can get them down to 2.5, roughly, give or take. The ears do crush in there, so that's the whole idea. Well, what if your face isn't flat? Well, you know the face of your jaws is pretty flat, and the top is pretty flat. So I put it in the vise a little high, and then I tapped it down with something flat, and then I checked all the way across until it was flat, all the way across and flat on the face, but just out a little bit. And then I ground my way until it was flush with the surface of the jaws. And I knew right then and there that I had a pretty flat surface. Maybe not exact, but pretty damn near close. So again, this is the way to show you guys at home how you can do this without using a whole lot of expensive tools. I brought some tools from work, but you could be using a 4-inch, $10 Harbor Freight grinder instead of, this and this. You can cut it down to one tool with 2 different, cutting wheel and a flap wheel. So there you guys go. I'm on the last. I'm straightening out my sleeves, and then from here I cut the tubes, and we get to make some sparks. So I'll let you guys go. All right, there is just way too much info to not cover here. So as you guys can see, I got my jig here, and you can see I got 2 1/8-inch washers, and then I got a thinner. I forgot the actual dimension here, but they're the same. And the reason for that is this doesn't slip through here. I know these are completely bottomed out on the bushing. This is bottomed out on the bushing. So these 2 are equally spaced from the bottom up. So now the way I'm going to do that is, now that that's our pedestal, I'm going to grab 2 more of these, lay them up top, and then I got 2 more over here. And then from here, we could start building our control arm based off of two of these took up the space on each end of that tube when I measured it. And again, there's going to be some fine tuning involved, but you guys can see like our platform is pretty good. We got equal stacks, and that's what we're going to tack weld our control arm into and then burn it all in once we know we're happy. So let you know that one. All right, so you guys can see that I got this all set up, and you can also see how, you know, we're a little offset, but again, this is why I went with a different size hole cutter, because I knew that I was going to have a couple of irregularities. And obviously you can see that on my cuts I wasn't exactly as centered as I had thought. But again, the fact that I went with a slightly bigger size allowed me to have that window of you know, error, if you will. So as you can see, we're on there, we're spaced out, and I'm going to tack weld it and pull it off, and I'll show you guys what it looks like on the other side, and then we're going to weld this all up and go from there. Alright guys, so I already got this kind of set up in place. It's tack welded. I measured, it's close center to center. We are going to have to ream it out a little bit because it's a really tight fit with the bolts, but overall it's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and start welding this up. It is a little hard, so I have to kind of move around as I'm welding, because obviously it's like a radius weld. We got one side done. I'll show you guys what that looked like, because I don't think you guys have actually seen my welding. It's not horrible. I'm no pro. But, you know, there's one. I did that one on the back side into that one. It's got there, but it's not bad. That's obviously our first tack weld. And this side's done. But, and then I'm going to go ahead and throw a couple of welds in here just for added strength. And again, welding will distort your openings. You're probably going to have to drill it out once you are done. And again, that should be enough. Sounds really cool when you're welding inside a tube. Okay. Welding left-handed here. It's been a while since I did that. Not bad for welding left-handed. Call that good. So see, I threw in some beefy stitch welds in there. It's still smoking, it's hot, but we're good. And of course, things are going to change as we put it in here, but, and again, this isn't going to be forgiving because our diameter was exactly the same diameter of the bolt. There is no room for error as far as putting it in. But knowing that we do have a bit of a, you know, room for like growth, I just got to go in there and open it up a little bit, and we're good. It's like within, you know, hair. But it is going to change So you can see this is done, and actually I checked on the lower, the brackets, and we should be good. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of these guys up here, leveled off, and weld it in there. I mean, this is still fucking hot. I should probably grab the cold side, huh? And so these are going to be welded in there, and that's only going to be to have a positive stop for this sleeve. It's just strictly there as a stop. It might look a little goofy, but the whole point of these control arms is to do them cheap, do them at home, and have them work. So all in all, the 1/2-inch diameter tubing is usually pretty cheap. I paid 25 or 23 a pop for the 2-foot sections of DOM. That's 40. You're in these control arms pretty cheap, and you can say you made them. You didn't buy them. So for me, that's always a cool factor. So for now, we'll sign off. I'm going to do a little bit more welding, and we'll follow it up. All right, so our control arms are done. They fit in the ears pretty good, and our bolts slide real nice. I did some experimenting on what I wanted to do with the edges here, because as I mentioned, I had to weld like a washer here to add surface so that when I tighten down the control arms, this sleeve, if it wasn't exactly centered on the hole, it wasn't gonna like cock itself in there on the sleeve. So I could have done a bushing, but you know, I had 3/4 ID washers, which fit perfect over the pipe, and then I welded them, and then I just hammered the ends down. So you know, I ground down the welds. So obviously I had to grind down the welds so that it would fit, because we did add material on the end by the time we got all said and done. And I did some experimenting, and this side looks better than this side. Of course, I have never made control arms, and I'll show you guys. I tried like welding this in, and it just, you know what, it's a lot of work. That's really not needed. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to fold it over. The sole purpose of these washers is not strength. It's just to add that area so that the sleeve doesn't pull through the control arm brackets. But we got one done. It's nice and sturdy. Definitely a lot better than the original one. You know, the stamped steel one. The material thickness is thicker, you know, and it's solid now, so we don't got a rubber bushing in there anymore. No deflection. And with our adjustable uppers, we're going to be able to set the pinion angle. And yeah, so I'm pretty happy with these. I only got one done. All in all, I came out here about 7 o'clock. I got one done in 2 hours. I'm sure the next one's going to go a lot faster, as now I've kind of figured it out. But again, I've never made something like this. I've done a lot of fabricating work, but ooh. Oh, this is like an instrument. All right. Next week we're setting a band. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with this. This is more than enough. This is pretty heavy duty, so I can't wait. Hopefully tomorrow morning I'll rock these out, and we'll put the rear end in probably like tomorrow evening, because our state's on like lockdown deal where you're only allowed to go out if you really need to. So even if I wanted to go by the shop and weld these up, technically it's not an essential, even though I do work for a shop, so there's a gray area there. But either way, as long as I get the rear end in by tomorrow, I'll be good. And then maybe Sunday we'll get the engine and the transmission set into place. I think I should be able to get the car far enough back. I don't know what the whole deal with working with, well, it's going to be cold. It's supposed to snow on Sunday or something like that. So and my wife's in the back like, what? That's what somebody at work said.
Spring! Happy spring! Spring is...
So,
God damn it.
but yeah, no, overall, I'm happy. I hope you guys enjoy this, and hopefully
it sounds like a didgeridoo.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and it gives you an idea on, you know, making your own stuff. For me, there's a lot of pride. You know, it might not look the best. It definitely will work, but it's a pride thing to be able to say I made that. And, you know, I could have bought these. I actually saw a set of GM A-Body Lakewood traction bars, which I could have just used the arm part, not the bracket part, for $100. So, you know, time and everything. Sometimes, you know what? It's cool to say I did that. So I'll let you guys go on that note. We'll see you.